A husband and wife moved to live in a house together with the husband's mother. They had 2 children, 1 boy and 1 girl. The husband's name was Vuthi. In 2007, they lived in a wooden house, not in a crowded village. Their home was at the edge of the village. When they first moved in, they made an offering to the village spirit, sprinkling pig's blood. And on the left side of the house, there was a spirit shrine. In the past, the shrine had always had a statue of an old man, but now it had been changed to a statue of a woman. Vuthi asked his mother about it, and she replied that it had been changed because the previous statue's hand had broken. The next day, he didn't think much more about it. One day, his children kept saying, "There is a woman in our house. I see a grandmother. I see an aunt." And they told their mother. The mother said it was because they had never made offerings to her. The next day, he built a small shed in front of the house and set it up as a place to sell rice. After that, he rarely went to the main house behind. From that time on, one day he took his wife and children to sleep in the front house. Suddenly, the dog started howling. He wondered why. Not only his dog, but also the neighbors' dogs kept howling and crying, on and off, again and again. He went outside to look and saw only the dogs there, so he went back into the house. As soon as he stepped back inside, something happened he never expected. He heard his wife's voice shouting, but she wasn't calling him or the children. It was as if she was shouting at someone, telling them to get out of the house and go outside. And it wasn't just once or twice. She called out 7 times. At that moment, he didn't dare open the door to look. A little later, he heard knocking on the walls from outside. He could think of only one thing: a ghost was haunting them. He was afraid his wife and children would wake up in fear, so he pulled them close and held them tightly until morning. In the morning, he told his wife what had happened. She became frightened and told him to stop talking about it. When night came again, they heard another sound, knocking on the door from outside. The wife heard it too and asked her husband, "Who's knocking?" He said he didn't know, and they stayed silent until morning. The next day, the wife said, "Let's go sleep in the big house at the back again. We'll just use the front house for selling rice." Even though he didn't know that the problem actually came from the big house, he did as she said. When they moved back and slept in the big house, for 4 days nothing happened. But on the 5th day, around 2 in the afternoon, his wife was at the front house selling rice, and the children were playing nearby. His 2 children were also playing. They liked to play near the spirit shrine because there was a lot of sand there. After a while, a customer came to buy rice. While the customer was waiting, she glanced over and suddenly saw 2 women strangling the 2 children, lifting them up off the ground. When she looked again, the children were just sitting and playing normally. She asked the rice seller, "Those 2 children, are they your kids?" The wife said, "Yes, they're my children." The customer kept staring, so the wife asked, "What's wrong?" The customer hesitated and said she was afraid to speak, but the wife told her to tell the truth. Then the customer said, "Just now, I saw 2 women strangling your children and lifting them into the air, like they were floating above the ground." Hearing that, the wife became terrified and shouted for her husband, telling him everything. That night they went to sleep. At first, the husband hadn't been afraid of the house, but after hearing what the customer had said, fear began to creep in. He called his children to sleep close together. Then, he heard the door creak open, but he couldn't move his body at all. His wife and children were fast asleep. He saw his stepmother walk into the room, but he could see only her eyes and teeth shining in the dark. She gestured for him to look upward, and when he tilted his head to look, he saw the children, like shadows, about 1 meter above the floor, heads hanging downward, their bodies rising all the way to the ceiling. They weren't moving like normal people. Their feet were stuck to the rafters, and their heads hung down toward the floor. Suddenly, his stepmother laughed, reached out and grabbed his leg, pulling him off the bed. He panicked and stumbled as he got up, terrified and weak, struggling to shout for his wife and children to help. They all ran out together in the middle of the night and went to sleep in the front house where they sold rice, turning on all the lights in the big house behind. In the morning, he called his mother and asked whether she had seen anything in the house. She lied and said she hadn't seen anything. The children also said nothing had happened. His wife then went to find a spiritual healer, a 58-year-old man, and asked him to come and examine the house. When he arrived, the healer's attention immediately turned to the spirit shrine. He kept looking up and down at it and asked, "Who changed the spirit shrine?" They answered, "His stepmother did." The healer then reached out his hand and removed the female statue from the shrine. The healer tilted his head and looked inside the spirit shrine. Then he said, "In this house there is a woman's spirit." The healer's wife went up into the house, but he didn't allow the husband and wife to follow. About 10 minutes later, she came back down and said, "In the past, there was nothing here. But now, inside this house, there is a piece of wood that carries spirits. And it isn't just one spirit. It is an entire group. Find the wood, and we will know." But neither they nor the healer knew which piece of wood it was, where it came from, or where it had been placed. So he called his mother and explained the situation, asking whether she had brought any wood into the house. His mother admitted honestly that yes, she had brought one plank of wood into the house. The son asked where it was and what she had used it for. She said that it came from someone she knew, a piece of wood said to bring luck, peace, and success, and she had placed it on the house beams. When the husband and wife first saw it, they didn't think much of it, but from the moment it was placed inside, the spirits had entered the house. The healer's wife went into the house, took the wood down, and tied a cotton string to the beams. While she was tying it, the children suddenly said, "Mom, the older sister is inside the house. She's looking at us. She doesn't want to leave, because now she's already inside." They told the healer's wife, and when she heard that, she tied cotton string along the rafters and marked the boundaries of the house. She said, "After 7 days, the spirit will dissolve." When the healer returned home, the family didn't dare stay in that house anymore. They waited, sleeping in the front rice shop house during the 7 days. But that only angered the spirits. They began appearing to the couple. The wife saw her husband sitting outside the house with his head split open like it had burst, and she screamed for him in terror. The husband, meanwhile, saw his wife with her head stuck through the window, her tongue hanging down to the ground. They could no longer live in peace, so they begged his mother to sell the house. They said, "We can't stay here anymore. We can't live with ghosts." They called the healer again. When he arrived, he looked at the house and said, "The spirits are now everywhere. They have completely taken the house. They've made it their own. But there is one way. You must sprinkle the rafters with the blood of a black dog." He apologized for the harshness of the method and explained that before killing the dog, they must take its date and hour of birth as a ritual exchange. The dog's life would substitute for a human life. Then the dog was killed, and its blood was smeared along the rafters, just as the healer instructed. When they finished, he told the husband and wife, "You must sleep in this house tonight. If you do not sleep here, the spirits will refuse to leave." So they stayed, inviting the parents to sleep there with them. On the rafters where the blood had been spread, footprints appeared, covering the beams. Until about 4 a.m, they heard a voice from beneath the house saying, "I've had my fun already. I'm leaving now." As for the piece of wood, they took it to the healer's home for a ritual ceremony. And when they prayed, a voice answered. The spirit inside the wood was not from the forest. A sorcerer had trapped and sealed spirits into the wood, like crabs caught and floating in a basket of water, to pass misfortune onto others. He had given that wood away to escape his own bad fate. The healer performed the final ceremony and struck the iron poles 7 times. And with that, it ended.